Good evening from South Africa and from England and welcome to episode 50 of Velospitty Speed Talk. Tina Snell is your host. And now, before we go any further, I have to apologize because we haven't had a show for a good long time. In fact, the last time we featured some shows were last year when I was at the Junior World Championships motocross in Finland, but there were multiple reasons for that, business intervening and some technical things that needed to be sorted. But in any case, back to tonight's show. Our guest is quite the rising star, Ethan Sparks. Our episode is called Sparks Flying with an apostrophe, and I'll explain that to the linguists if they care to ask me. And Ethan has been setting the tracks alight of late in Moto 4 and also in the Ovali, the World Mini GP Championship. So Ethan, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for making this experience.
All right. Well, there you go. You need to build up on the media experience. We spoke before. You've got a mural of Valentino Rossi behind you, and he is one of the top media guys of all time. So let's get you started. And talking about getting started, tell us a little bit about how you got started with racing. How did this all come about?
Well, I grew up with my dad enjoying. He had his motorbike himself, and he liked to watch MotoGP a long time ago. So he bought me a little motocross bike, PW50, and I started riding around the field and in my garden. And then I was on it so much that my dad saw Fab racing on TV, so he decided to buy me a mini moto. And then I went to Swindon karting, a place where I started first, and they had a track days there, like a training camp there, and then we started to move up through the ranks from them.
All right, so you went to Swindon, so you started straight off with road racing. You didn't go the motocross route first, even though you had the PW to start off with.
No, I went straight to road. Yeah.
Right. And how soon after you started did the realization come that you've got some talent for this? How soon did the results come?
So it was 2020. I was in the AC40 Pros in Fab and the Metrobit 50s, and my rookie season in the 50s, and I won both the championships, and we started to realise that I had some talent, and we moved up to the 70s, and then I won that in my first year as well. But we decided to stay in again, and then I won again, so we thought we need to move me up to now European Championships.
All right. If you win your rookie year, there's nothing too bad about that. That's a little bit of a Pedro Acosta story. Let's hope you can repeat it in Moto 3 at some stage. All right. And how were the ranks? Which were the classes that you went through from when you started?
So I started in the AC40 Rookies, which is a mini moto, which is has a 10 mil restrictor in it. And then I only done that for 1 year. And I went against all the past British Talent Cup riders were in that when I was in it, and I finished 6th. And sometimes I got one win, which was a big achievement because seeing that they're doing so well in the British Talent Cup, that it shows that I had a little bit of talent. So then we moved up to the Pros, which was a 14 mil restricting mini moto. And I didn't win that in my first year, but we stayed in it again, and I did do quite well. So we done it again, but because I finished 2nd. But then that was when I done the 50s and the Pros at the same time, and I won them both. So from then on, we moved up and didn't do the mini motos anymore, but moved up to a more powerful metro kit, which was Mini GP 70. And in my rookie season, I won that just by 1 point, so it was very close. And then we stayed in the 70s again because of my age and won it again. But because I became older, I got the chance to move up to Moto 4 and FM Mini GP.
All right. Well, I love interviewing you because you know what? I can get you going with the interview and then go and make some tea because you will take care of the rest of it. That's great. Now, you mentioned Moto 4 and we'll get back to that. Or let's jump into that, actually, seeing as you mentioned it. The Moto 4, you participated in the ESBK in Spain. I think you became the first Brit ever to win a race in ESBK. So tell us a little bit about that championship, because everybody knows that the level there is extremely, extremely high.
Well, it's a CRF 150 engine, and it's built for like a race bike, so it's similar size to a European Talent Cup bike, just a little bit thinner for smaller people. So because you're 14 when you go to the European Talent Cup, but 12 in the Moto 4, they're a little bit smaller. So the bikes aren't as powerful, so slipstream is quite high, so you get used to that, and you ride on the big tracks, which is good. So when you come to the European Talent Cup, you know the tracks and you're ready for when you get there to hopefully do well. But it's the best kids at my age riding on big tracks, so it's really good that I got that win, and it just gets me used to I'm ready for the European Talent Cup when I get to 14.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things. Like I say, you run the interview rampant. That's great, because we were going to get to European Talent Cup and British Talent. You mentioned also British Talent Cup and so on. Now with the European Talent Cup, of course, that runs in conjunction with the FIM Junior GP. And those guys, when they get out of the FIM Junior GP and go to Moto 3, they are normally ready. I mean, there's a perfect example, Pedro Costa and now Angel Piqueras. He moved up now, and in the tire test in Valencia, he was well in the mix. So when would you envisage, you're only 12 now, so it would be 2 years before you go to ETC, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm just about to turn 13 on Friday this week. So I'll move up now to a more powerful bike, which is a pre-Moto 3, and that'll get me even more ready. By the time I'm 14, I'll be used to the power, tracks, and the level.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, happy birthday. So we chose a great week to interview you. All right. So and of course Spain, it's a massive hotbed of talent. They really push their talent, and it goes through. I mean, if you look at the podiums of the Moto 3, Moto 2, Moto GP, there's a lot of Spanish in there. And do you feel a great benefit for mixing it, for going to Spain and throwing yourself in the absolute deep end?
Definitely, because if I was riding in Fab in 2114, although when I rode in Fab, the competition was very high, riding with the Spanish kids, it's way more aggressive. And my first race, I've done a wild card in 2022, and I just didn't realise how aggressive you had to be and how the slipstream really affects your riding. So I think like riding with people that are better than you makes you better. And now after a year, 3 rounds was it, I ended up winning because getting used to it took 3 rounds to do that win.
Yeah, well, 3 rounds, that's pretty, most people would say that's a pretty steep learning curve. That's pretty quick. And without meaning disrespect at all, I respect all the Talent Cup series, the Northern Talent Cup, the British Talent Cup and everything. But I think the BTC guys, when they go to ETC on wildcard rides or whatever, they realize that is an altogether a different level. We are very close to Maximo Quiles, who was champion 2 years ago and again this year. And, he's been signed by Marc Marquez's management company already. So they already see some future. Now, speaking of Spain, I want to ask you, because there's a rider I've been following who took quite an unusual route from Spain. And I've been following him. It's also in the FIM Junior GP series, but in the Moto2. And that's Fermin Aldeguer. Have you been following him, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've heard of him before. He rides in the World Moto2 now. But I think if you win the European Moto2, I think you get a ride in the World's Moto2 Championship. So that's also another route you could go down. So I think he recently got a podium at Valencia, and he came from winning that, so it shows the talent's also high, even if it's not the World Championship.
Well, he did better than that. He won the last 3 races of the championship on the trot. He won 5 or 4 races throughout the season, finished 3rd in the championship.
Yeah.
Just ahead of, he actually in the last race displaced Jack Dixon in the final standings. And there was big talk of him being linked with the VR46 team because, and he's only 18 years old, when they were going to possibly offer him a ride. But then, of course, that ride went to Fabio Di Giannantonio. Let's talk about that. I just wanted to say, I know you mentioned before, or I saw in one of your profiles, that Marc Marquez is one of your favorite riders. What are your thoughts on Marquez going to Ducati, and what did you think of the test in Valencia?
Well, he was 4th in the top 5, and he came from the Repsol Honda, which he won 8 championships on. But I think from his injury, he struggled to get back used to the bike, and he's had a lot of crashes since. So I think if he gets on the Ducati, he'll have a chance of winning another championship.
Yeah, I think the other guys have taken notice, because he was fastest Ducati, in fact, during the test up until the last minutes, until Bezzecchi put a faster time. So yeah, that was interesting. And another thing, before we get back to you, because this whole thing is about where you're going. Interesting thing for us as South Africans, Brad Binder finished 3rd in that tire test. He had a couple of no wins this year, but a couple of podiums. But Brad Binder flew back from Europe, him and Darren, flew back a long flight, then took a 9-hour road trip, and then they participated in the Roof of Africa, which is an extreme enduro, which is insane, and they completed it, so that's just something. Now, talking about enduro, I saw some footage of you also still riding the motocross bike. Do you do a lot of training on it, or what do you do for track training?
Well, in the winter, we leave my bikes out in Spain. So when we're in England and we're going to do some training, it's usually motocross because of the weather. But if we were to train on maybe the NSF 250 or Moto 4, like what we did last year, we would fly out to Spain and do maybe a track day. But if we're in England, we'll be riding the motocross bike.
All right. Now you mentioned Spain. Whereabouts are you based in Spain, and do you have a team there that takes care of you?
Yeah. Well, we last year, this season, we rode for someone, the British Carrera team. They have a place in Alicante where they keep all my bikes, but we leave our motorhome in Spain with all the bikes in and a trailer, and then we just sleep at the track usually. But the team keeps my Moto 4 and does all the mechanics, like changes the clutch, because on the Moto 4 you need it changed every round.
All right. Now, you mentioned team, and I read somewhere that Michael Laverty from Vision Track Racing had taken an interest or was talking to you. And of course, they run a Moto3 team with two Brits, Scott Ogden and Josh Watley, who both unfortunately are injured at the moment. Is that is there a kind of a career path for you with perhaps talking to them and continuing with them?
Yeah, so we rode in the Fab Racing MKGP 70s for Vision Track, well, under Vision Track colours, and we had a tent, we had a mechanic, so we hopefully wanted to go to Moto 4 with them, but because of the cost of Moto 4 and doing it at such a young age, it's quite a lot of money to invest in. So hopefully when I'm 14, I can ride in Vision Track in the European Talent Cup, and from then on move up the ranks until I reach Moto 3 and ride hopefully for Vision Track.
All right. Well, yeah, well, because it's a great project that they have, because when you listen to the broadcasts on TNT, the MotoGP, and you listen to Simon Crafar and Emmett and Neil Hodgson, the theme is there's no Brit riders coming through to MotoGP. You have now Sam Lowes is going to World Superbikes, so there's only really Jake Dixon left. So the country really needs and wants some talent. So I think all eyes are on riders like you, who's shown some promise on coming through, right?
Yeah, although I've got a long time to come as I'm only 12, and there's pretty much no one else. You've got Casey O'Gorman, who's doing really well at the moment, and Johnny Garnes, but because of his injury, he hasn't rode the whole year. So, but after them, I'm probably the next one coming through.
Yeah, you mentioned Casey O'Gorman. I was like I say, you're a great interviewee because you anticipate I was going to mention Casey and also Johnny Garnes, and he had a horrific injury, I think during training in Spain actually, which put him out for the year. But I see he's made a return to the tracks, not riding, but there on the pit lane and on the grid, and that talking to other riders. But then also you have Eddie O'Shea. He stood in for the Vision Track riders, and he did actually quite well for a stand-in rider. But of course those are Irish riders. Not that we separate them, but of course the Neil Hodgson and those guys, they're looking for a real English rider. Now there's a lot of English riders in World Superbikes, and there will be one more now with Sam Lowes going there. But of course they are looking for the next generation. Now, when it comes to Talent Cup, do you see yourself focusing on European Talent Cup, or will you do also British Talent Cup?
Well, at the moment, we're not sure, but we want to do both, only because in the European Talent Cup, the competition will maybe be higher, because at that time, all the people who are in it now would have moved on from the British Talent Cup, and so you get a prize for winning the BTC. So we hopefully want to win that, but do the ETC as well to keep my aggression going up and keep progressing.
Yeah. Now, also one of the big prizes for winning a national talent cup or a regional talent cup is that you get automatic selection to the Red Bull Rookies Cup. Is that something I think everybody dreams of, racing in the Red Bull Rookies Cup? What is your feeling about that?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to mention the Red Bull Rookies. It's the road to MotoGP, and just the experience of riding in it with everyone on the same bikes in tracks all across Europe, and it's just like the way to go, really, because everyone at that age, best riders in the world sometimes, will all be riding in that, and it's just the way to go, really.
Yeah, and one of the huge benefits of Red Bull Rookies Cup is that it runs in conjunction with MotoGP weekends. So you get to see the guys, you get to see the Moto3 guys. Okay, admittedly, the bikes are not the same. A Red Bull Rookies Cup bike is a production bike. It's not a full Moto3 bike, but you can get the feel of where you are with regards to the Moto3 grid. And then again, I point out Angel Piqueras, who I think is might have the makings of a new Pedro Costa, because he was the most dominant Red Bull Rookies Cup rider of all time, won the most races, won the championship by the biggest margin, and he also won the FIM Junior GP. Now, the ESBK don't run the same as the FIM Junior GP. It's not the same race weekends, but have you attended Junior GP races? Or do you follow it at all?
I follow the ETC and Junior GP, but I think in Austria, the Red Bull Ring, we went to watch the Red Bull rookies and meet everyone there and watch the MotoGP. But no, I haven't been to any of the ETC rounds, only because to fly out there it costs money, and at that time we were already in Austria, so we just decided to go and watch it there as well.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get back to the Austrian part, but I want to pick up something on Spain. And you mentioned something, the money, and you said your bikes are there and whatever. And all of us know that racing is an expensive business. I used to own a team, and I know it's a huge, big opportunity of putting a pile of money on a fire and setting it alight with the spends. So how do you guys cope? Who are your sponsors? Who helps you to get through? Because of course it's not going to get cheaper as you move along with more expensive machinery and more races in more places.
Well, luckily we do have a few sponsors that help us out in different ways. So we have Chris Hall, who recently bought me a new 190 to help with the costs, because a brand new bike does cost a lot of money. And we have Wadham's Fitness, who is owns like a gym company, so that helps me with fitness and a little bit of finance. Chaz Mortimer, who's my manager, who helps me get in contact with many important people and just comes with me to every round, helps me out in many different ways. And then there's the Danny Webb GP camp, who helped me with training. So Danny Webb's a past rider, so he helps me with the big tracks and small tracks sometimes. Then there's J&S, who give me knee sliders, oils, a lot of those, and yeah, that's all I can remember really.
Yeah, and it's sometimes the small things that add up and become big money. And you mentioned your training, and we're going to get back to that as well. Okay, you mentioned the Ovale. So we've spoken about the Moto 4, and then the Ovale. You qualified for the World Mini GP finals through the Austrian series. Why did you go to Austria? Is there a particular link with Austria, or why did you choose to go there?
Well, at the moment, when we started the season, we really wanted to get to Valencia in the final, because of like the publicity you get there and things that promote you a lot. But at that moment, the British FIM wasn't going ahead. So the season before, we missed out on going to Valencia because of that. So we didn't want to take any chances. So then we went to try and do the Dutch Championship, but then that ended up not going ahead. So the next closest one and easiest one to do was Austria. And after doing it this season, we've realised that just the tracks, the organisation and everything there is just brilliant. And we just really want to do it again because of how friendly the people were. Although we want to do the British one as well because it's closer, we just thought the experience at the Austrian one was better. I think you've cut out.
Sorry, there you go. I said each team at the junior GP or at the mini GP had a mentor. Who was the mentor for you guys? Who was the MotoGP or Moto2 rider that helped you guys?
For the Austrian series.
Yeah, no, at the final in Valencia.
The final. So there was Philip Salak, but as well as that, Sam Lowes, because I was British and I was under the British flag, he noticed the flag, so he came on the grid with me, and he was our ambassador. Well, my sort of ambassador, but Philip Salak was the main ambassador for at the final for everyone who went through the Austrian series.
Well, actually, I know Philip quite well. He's one of the very early members of the Youth Force Racing group. He was one of the first riders that I put the profile up on. And in fact, he's moving now to the VDS team. He's taking the seat that Sam Lowes is vacating. So, yeah, let's see how he does it now. Now, we're going to get to the final and that weekend and that experience. But I thought, normally I make a video for the riders, but we had very little time because this thing happened in a bit of a hurry. But I put a short little video together for you. So just have a look at this and see what kind of memories this will bring back for you. Right, there you go. And that was just a very, very short clip for you. Now we're going to get to the Valencia weekend, which I would imagine is the biggest thing you'd ever experienced racing-wise. You qualified without a doubt very, very easily from Austria. What did you think to expect from the other riders from other regions? Because some of them you hadn't raced against. So what were your expectations going in?
Well, I knew I would at least make it into the final race. We knew a few riders that I'd been roughly the same speed of in training, which was Finn Kratochwil, who came second last year in the final. Enzo Zaragoza, who had also finished quite high up last year and won the Spanish Championship this season. So I had high expectations. But obviously I was racing at the best kids in the world at my age. And although I hadn't ridden on the track before, I knew I could pick up the tracks quite easily. And knowing I was like one of the only rookies in the year, I think there was 3 rookies in the final race. I expected to be top 10, but then I put in a really quick qualifying lap, maybe 0.03 quicker than my lap that was put me 7th, and I went straight up to 3rd on the grid. So yeah, from then on I thought, well, in the races I'm better, so I'm going to try and win it.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, and you got good starts. The commentators, of course, covered you a lot. I had to go through a lot of footage because, of course, it was a 5-hour broadcast. With only a few races in between. And what did it feel like? You're at the GP weekend. This is where the final of the MotoGP is. And the paddock is full with MotoGP guys. Bagnaia is there. All of the other guys are there. How did it feel to race in front of these guys?
Well, sometimes I feel a little bit pressure, but I just thought, well, I've came this far. Now is the final. I've just got to prove myself. And although they were watching, I just put them out of my head and just concentrate on the race and finishing as high up as I could.
All right. Well, that's the correct philosophy. All right. So as we will move towards the end, let's learn a little bit more about you. Apart from racing, what do you like to do? What have you got? Any hobbies? What music do you listen, or what else do you do?
So sometimes I go mountain biking. There's a track near me which has a few jumps, berms, and sometimes good for fitness. But I also like doing fitness work, so in the gym, maybe running or doing weightlifting or something like that. All things that help me in some way for racing. But at school, I like football, doing football. I'm in the team, so I just enjoy any sport really.
All right. Yeah, that's normally the mark of a sportsman. And now, speaking about school, are your friends at school and the fellow scholars, are they aware of what you're doing, and what is their reaction to it?
Well, my friends think it's amazing. They think that I go out to Spain to train while they stay in England, wet, cold, muddy, to train football. But they know I recently finished 4th in the world, and they think I can be the best in the world. But my teachers know everything. We have a head of year who likes to watch motorbike racing, provisionally mainly the Isle of Man TT. So they all know that I've finished 4th in the world. But at the same time, while racing, I do ask for work, so emailing the teachers, because I don't like falling behind. So when I come back to school, I don't have to catch up as much as what I would have to if I missed a whole week of school.
Yeah, that's good. That's good time management. And in fact, you mentioned Johnny Garnes just before he got injured. They when the BTC season started this year, they ran a little feature on him where his school also made a little bit fuss about him, because the same as you, the principal was a big fan and so on. Now, speaking of other riders, which riders do you have most contact with, and are you friendly with? You mentioned Finn Kratochel from Germany, who's also somebody that we've been speaking to, but who not even particularly only in your classes, but which other riders do you have contact with?
Well, I know most of the BTC riders because I've ridden with every single one of the ones in the top 15, all of them through the ranks. So in Fab, and being out in Spain, I know a lot of Spanish people. Although they don't speak English, I still mix with them. And from Ireland, someone called Lewis Mullen. He's in the same team as me in Moto 4. I only recently met him this year, and I'm in contact with him. Well, we always see each other at the ESBK round, so I have someone to talk to, do stuff with in Spain.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so very much for joining us. You've been great. It was an absolutely trouble-free interview, because sometimes you get interviews where I have to literally extract every word out of the rider. So this is great, and it will stand you in good stead. And by the way, you got. I was warned in advance, or not warned, but advised in advance that you're a good speaker. The guy from Brits to MotoGP, very, very good project that they're running, and doing auctions and helping riders. And he said, yeah, you're a good speaker, so there's not going to be a problem. So thank you so very much for joining us. The video will be on YouTube. It should be ready within 20 minutes or so, on the same link, so you can share it, the interview, with your followers. And also your little riding video, I'll upload it as a separate video, and send you the link of that as well. And by the way, speaking of followers, where are you on social media? Where can people find you?
Instagram, so it's Ethan_Sparks_Sparky62. Facebook, which is Sparky62 as well. And just anywhere like those platforms.
All right. Now, just the final thing, the 62, is there a particular significance to that number, or how did that come about?
So it's every one of my family members' date of birth. So I'm born on December the 8th, so it's 8 plus my dad's June the 18th, so plus 18 plus 20, and my mum is something that adds up to 62. So they all add up to 62. I have 4 family members.
Oh wow, there you go. Yeah. So that's a very interesting way of arriving at the number. So Ethan, thank you so very much. What I'm going to do, I've got a comment that somebody wanted to watch the video again. So I'm going to replay the video and then play our exit song. So thank you very much for joining us. And again, I'll share this all with you afterwards, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ethan.